Coming up on this episode.
After tonight, I shall make a point of never seeing her again. We work, or have worked, until today, which is the last, thank God, from 10 a.m. to somewhere around 5 p.m., and Milady Ball can thank her lucky stars that I am not drinking. There is a chance that I might have killed her.
Thanks for stopping by. I did not know that. Please like and subscribe.
Please stop saying don't forget to like and subscribe.
Sure, but how are we going to get followers?
America has always been fascinated by famous couples. Long before Brangelina and Bennifer, there was Gable and Lombard, Bogey and Bacall, and even a Lucy and Desi. But in the 1960s and 70s, there was one couple who people seemed to be even more fascinated with than all the others, and that was Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. They were kind of like the Beatles of couples, and Dick and Liz mania was everywhere. I think part of the reason for this fascination is that both of them, aside from being famous film stars, had very strong personalities and a very tumultuous relationship. They became known as the Battling Burtons. They weren't happy together, and they weren't happy apart. Burton purchased a huge 69-carat pear-shaped diamond for Taylor in 1969, and that huge diamond alone was the focus of a lot of media attention. They were married in 1964 and divorced in 1974. They then remarried in 1975 and were again divorced in 1976. Year after year, the tabloids had a field day with all of this. So back in 1970, Lucille Ball was at a party given by David Frost. Burton and Taylor were there also. As Ball and the Burtons began to talk, they came up with the idea of the couple making a guest appearance on Ball's TV show. The Burtons said they'd give their fee to charity. Ball said that they could center the episode around Liz Taylor's famous diamond that Burton had given her. The Here's Lucy episode was called Lucy Meets the Burtons and originally aired on October 5th, 1970. It received a lot of publicity, and so it was highly anticipated, and the ratings for that program were one of the highest of that TV season. I recently came across an article that claimed that Richard Burton was not pleased with his appearance on the show. As I looked further into it, I came across this interview Elizabeth Taylor did with Rosie O'Donnell in 2001. O'Donnell asked her about her experience on the Here's Lucy show. Here's how Taylor answered.
Ball, but what was it like to work with Lucille Ball? My Lord.
Well, she's not as she appears on the show.
Really?
She is totally in command. And I don't know about you, but I don't like being taken by the shoulders or the arms and say, stand there.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, ma'am.
Really? So she was sort of bossy. Oh, is that an understatement, Elizabeth?
I didn't say that.
She was bossy.
She's one of America's icons.
Even Lucy's daughter, who had appeared on Here's Lucy, made it clear that when you came on her mom's show, her mom was all business and was very blunt and direct with actors who came on the program.
She gave everybody acting advice, but she didn't ever help me learn lines. No, God, no. When you're on the set, yeah. I mean, if you're not speaking up, if you're not on your mark, if you're, God forbid, if you're late or... She did not, and she treated us all, kind of like, do it right. But she was always really right about what she's saying. She was a great teacher. She really was. And she did not suffer fools easily.
It's no secret that Ball could be very demanding on her set and that she insisted on doing each shot exactly as written, which didn't go over well with some who liked a looser environment. The collaboration of Ball and the Burtons was not a match made in heaven. I eventually discovered that Richard Burton had been journaling since he was 14 years old, and he wrote about the experience he and Taylor had on the set of Here's Lucy. His writings were published in a book called The Richard Burton Diaries in 1988. As the title of the book states, it's a collection of thoughts from his diaries. Burton died in 1984 at only 58 years old. What he wrote about his experience with Lucille Ball and performing on the show was very surprising. To say he was upset is putting it mildly. I thought I'd put what he'd written in this episode, but rather than me reading what he said, I thought it would be more fun if I used the magic of AI where we can hear his voice read from his diary entries. So let's take a look. On Thursday, May 17, 1970, while staying in his Beverly Hills hotel, he was shooting the Lucy TV episode. Burton wrote about how he was not impressed with how Ball treated Gail Gordon, the actor who had appeared in many of her TV series. He said that once the cameras stopped rolling, Gordon and her other supporting actors didn't exist.
She ignores her brilliant straight man who's on Poor Soul week after week with her, a man called Gail Gordon, and Cliff Norton, who plays a small part, and the director. They don't exist off camera.
In reading some of his entries, I thought this next excerpt he writes about probably had something to do with his attitude towards Lucy. At this point in his life, Burton was on top of the world, maybe the most sought-after actor on the planet. An actor who'd performed Shakespeare.
To be or not to be.
And who had been nominated for 6 Academy Awards at that point. He tells of when she wanted him to practice a scene with the 2 other actors, and it's hard to imagine, but she actually tapped Burton and then the other actors on the foreheads, and then told them how they were supposed to do the scene. Needless to say, this did not go over well with him.
Between shots yesterday, she summoned us, Norton, Brooke, and myself, to her dressing room with a tap on each forehead. We were all sitting down chatting with Hugh French, and proceeded to tell us how to play the scene which we had just walked through. With faces as straight as freeways, we then all proceeded to shout every line at each other in ludicrously loud voices. "That's better, Richard. Now I can hear that word. You're making me laugh." And laugh she did, every time we did it. And we did it about 3 times. Brooke's face was a study in disbelief. The other actor was obviously used to it and took it all as if this were normal for an actor to tell other actors how to do a scene without the director being there. I warned the director to warn Jingle Balls that if she tried any of that stuff on Elizabeth, she would see, in person, what a 1,000 megaton hydrogen bomb does when the warhead is attached and exploded. It will all be over tonight. And again, Lucy will be lucky that I am temporarily such a little saint, as normally I would probably let her have what the Yanks call the full shot of my contempt.
He wrote about how Lucy overreacted when he made a mildly funny remark.
Miss Ball then went into an embarrassing convulsion of hysterical laughter, which terminated in her throwing herself helplessly over the back of a sofa and drumming her legs against the floor in a false ecstasy of amusement. It was acutely unwatchable, and we all avoided each other's eyes.
As Burton wrote on, and they worked together longer, he seemed to get more and more irritated by Ball. I'm sure she was a handful to work with, but she seemed to have a special ability to get under his skin. She clearly rubbed him the wrong way, and his criticisms became even more biting.
Those who had told us that Lucille Ball was very wearing were not exaggerating. She is a monster of staggering charmlessness and monumental lack of humor. She is not wearing to us because I suppose we refuse to be worn. I am coldly sarcastic with her to the point of outright contempt, but she hears only what she wants to hear. 19 solid years of double takes and pratfalls and desperate upstaging and cutting other people's laughs if she can, nervously watching the ratings as she does so. A machine of enormous energy, which, driven by a stupid driver who has forgotten that a machine runs on oil as well as gasoline and who has neglected the former, is creaking badly towards a final convulsive seize-up.
Burton also commented on 2 other actors who had done her show, Joan Crawford and Jack Benny, and what a terrible experience each of them had had with Ball. Now, one has to realize that Benny and Ball worked together many times through the decades, and one would think that if Jack Benny really felt that way about working with Lucille Ball, he would have declined working with her again.
Jack Benny, the most amiable man in the world and one of the truly great comedians of our time, says that in 4 days she reduced his life expectancy by 10 years. The hitherto impeccably professional Joan Crawford was so inhibited by this behemoth of selfishness that she got herself stupendously crocked for the actual show, and virtually had to be helped to her feet and managed, not without some satisfaction, I dare say, to bugger up the whole show.
If you thought the previous comments were rough, buckle up your seatbelts because Burton hammers Lucy even harder in this next segment.
I loathed her the first day. I loathed her the second day and the third. I loathe her today, but now I also pity her. After tonight, I shall make a point of never seeing her again. We work, or have worked, until today, which is the last, thank God, from 10 a.m. to somewhere around 5 p.m., and Milady Ball can thank her lucky stars that I am not drinking. There is a chance that I might have killed her.
Wow. Lucy died in 1989, a year after Burton's book was published, and you have to hope that she never heard about any of this. The funny thing is that after Burton and Taylor finished shooting the episode and performed it before a live audience, surprisingly, Burton then softened up a bit on his criticism of Lucy, and he actually makes her sound a bit more human. By the way, Burton refers to Taylor as E when he tells this story.
We did the Lucy show to great acclaim from Lucy and the rest of the people and the audience. We were all apprehensive as to exactly what was going to happen. Ron, and indeed all of us, were firmly fearful that Lucy, with her superior experience with this kind of medium, would swamp us with changes of pace and/or ad-libs and other cheap tricks of that kind. Nothing of the sort happened. We swamped her. She was intensely nervous, and I found immediately that I was in total control of the audience, and her, from the moment we appeared together. The same happened when E appeared. Lucy's timing and assurance, which we had assumed was a built-in mechanism which was faultless, went skew-whiff, and E, as ever, took everything in her stride. Everything she did, E that is, worked like a charm, and the audience quite clearly adored her. Her stage presence, this, the third time I've felt it happen, is quite electrifying. She held the audience like a vice in Faustus at Oxford, at the poetry reading in New York, and now in the Lucy show.
So, what to make of all this some 50 years later? Much of it, I think, comes down to perspective and expectations. Richard Burton was an exceptionally accomplished stage and film actor, and being married to Elizabeth Taylor, he likely anticipated being treated with a significant degree of respect. On the other hand, Lucille Ball, an experienced television veteran, ran a tightly controlled operation, producing a new show every 7 days, which required a no-nonsense approach. The Burtons probably imagined that their appearance on Here's Lucy would be filled with laughter and fun, reflecting the lighthearted atmosphere of the show as seen on screen. However, the reality was different. Both Richard and Liz felt slighted and disrespected, leading to their offense and eventually anger. This clash of expectations versus reality contributed to the tension and the discontent noted by Burton in his diary. That's my 2 cents. What are your thoughts? Should Lucy have adjusted her often bossy approach to accommodate the world-famous Burtons, or was her no-nonsense manner justified in the fast-paced world of television production? Should the Burtons maybe have realized that producing a weekly comedy show was very different than making a film, swallowed their pride and given Lucy some grace? Hey, I'd love to hear your opinions and insights. Thanks for stopping by and for your support, because you're the ones who keep this channel going. Thanks a lot.
Ba-da-da.